All right, listeners, we've got a deep dive tonight that goes right to the heart of Arkham Asylum.
Oh, should I be worried?
Well, you know how we sometimes get those mysterious packages, the ones that make you wonder how exactly they found their way to our doorstep.
The ones with no return address, definitely mysterious.
Right, exactly. So inside this one, we found some recordings and a few documents. Edward Nygma.
The Riddler.
The Riddler himself.
That's fascinating. You know, what immediately grabs my attention is that we're talking about actual therapy session recordings.
Right.
It's like a direct line into the Riddler's mind.
Yeah.
This is a chance to see, like, what makes him tick when he's not, trying to outsmart the entire city.
Exactly. Like when he's not leaving Batman riddles.
Exactly.
It's
fascinating. And the therapist is Dr. Pilar Wilson.
Yeah.
Is a bit of an enigma herself.
Well, that's putting it lightly.
Right from the start, you notice something different about her approach.
Yeah, her accent is, well, let's just say it's pretty distinctive.
Yes.
And she throws in phrases from other languages, too.
I noticed that.
Like Spanish, Portuguese, sometimes even mid-sentence.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's speaking in code, which ironically might be the perfect way to engage someone like the Riddler, right?
It's definitely unconventional, but what's interesting is that Nygma doesn't seem put off by it at all.
Right.
He's actually pretty responsive, even a little intrigued. It makes you wonder if her unique communication style is a deliberate therapeutic technique or just part of her personality.
Well, one thing's for sure. It definitely plays into Nygma's need for intellectual stimulation. He can't resist a good puzzle. Even if it's just figuring out what the heck his therapist is trying to say.
That's a great point. There's that moment where she says, despacito, instead of slowly. And for a second, I thought she was just quoting the song. But then I realized it's probably just her accent,
Right.
And you see Nygma kind of like lean in, almost like he's enjoying the challenge of understanding her.
It makes me think of all those times where he creates these, like, elaborate, multi-layered riddles for Batman. It's almost as if Dr. Wilson is inadvertently speaking his language in a way.
Absolutely.
Like she's playing right into his...
Exactly. It highlights how Nygma's need for mental engagement is so deeply ingrained. Even in therapy, he's seeking out puzzles to solve.
So we've established that Dr. Wilson has a unique style.
Yes.
But is it actually effective? I mean, is she making any progress with Nygma? Or is this just a bizarre conversation with a criminal mastermind?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
It's too early to say for sure, but there are hints that she might be getting through to him in a way that others haven't.
Like how?
Well, for one thing, she doesn't shy away from directly challenging his ego. She asks him point blank if he considers himself evil, which, let's be honest, is not a question most therapists would throw out there in the first session.
Right. I mean, it's Arkham Asylum, not a self-help seminar.
Exactly. But Dr. Wilson doesn't seem to be playing by the usual rules, and Nygma, surprisingly, doesn't get defensive. He heavily seems to relish the opportunity to, intellectually spar with her.
Well, he's never been one to back down from a challenge.
No, he hasn't. And that brings us to another interesting aspect of the session. Nygma's constant comparisons.
Oh, yeah.
He's measuring himself against other villains like the Joker, Bane, even Lex Luthor.
It's like he's got this internal ranking system for supervillains.
Which, knowing Nygma, wouldn't be surprising at all.
Right.
But it does reveal a lot about his insecurities. He needs to believe he's the smartest, the most cunning, even if it's just in his own mind.
There's a part where he says that Luthor might be more ruthless, and that's why he's more successful. It's a rare moment of self-awareness, almost vulnerability.
It's fascinating, right? Because you can see that Nygma admires Luthor's ability to achieve his goals, even if he doesn't necessarily agree with his methods. And it makes you wonder if Nygma's own lack of ruthlessness is a choice or a limitation.
Well, it's not like he hasn't had opportunities to be ruthless. I mean, think about all the times he's put Batman in life or death situations.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's always that element of the game, the puzzle, that seems to temper his actions.
Like he's bound by a certain set of rules, even if those rules are completely twisted.
Which makes me think about when Dr. Wilson brings up MIMSA. It's a bit unclear what she's getting at, but Nygma confirms he's a member.
Now that's intriguing.
Right.
MIMSA is a real organization composed of some of the world's most intelligent and powerful men.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of details in this recording, but Nygma's membership definitely adds another layer to our understanding of him.
It's like he's part of this exclusive club for criminal masterminds.
Right.
And Knowing Nigma, he probably sees himself as like the most brilliant member of the group.
Of course. It's all about validation for him, isn't it? He needs to be recognized as the best, the smartest, the most cunning. And MIMSA seems to provide that validation, even if it comes at a pretty steep price.
So we've got this incredibly complex character Enigma with his puzzles, his ego, and his secret society membership. And then we have Dr. Wilson, who's an enigma in her own right.
Oh, absolutely. Her methods are unorthodox.
Yes.
Her background is mysterious and her motivations are unclear. But there's something about her approach that seems to be getting under Nigma's skin in a good way.
It's like she's figured out how to play his game even if she doesn't realize it.
And that's what makes this session so compelling. It's a battle of wits between two incredibly intelligent individuals, both of whom are hiding secrets. And as listeners, we're left to try and decipher their words and actions, just like Batman trying to solve one of the Riddler's elaborate puzzles. Oh. Right.
Okay, I'm hooked.
I know, me too. I can't wait to dive deeper.
So where do we go from here?
Well, next we're going to explore some of the more surprising turns in this conversation.
Ooh.
Like, did you know they talk about escape rooms?
Escape rooms.
Yes, like the ones people pay to get trapped in.
Wow. That's like...
We'll also get into Dr. Wilson's unusual background and maybe even figure out if there's any hope for the Riddler to actually break free from his criminal tendencies. You know, could he use those puzzle-making skills for good?
That's a great question. I'm ready to find out. What about you?
Absolutely. Let's get to it. So before we were talking about, Dr. Wilson being a puzzle that Nigma can't quite solve.
Right. And knowing the Riddler, I mean, that probably makes her even more fascinating to him.
It's true. It's true. She's unpredictable. She challenges him intellectually, and she doesn't seem intimidated by his intellect or his reputation.
Yeah, which is a refreshing change from how most people react to him. I mean, let's be honest. Meeting the Riddler in a dark alley. Probably not high on anyone's bucket list.
Definitely not. But Dr. Wilson seems to approach him with this, genuine curiosity. Like a scientist studying a rare specimen. This is where we see a glimmer of something kind of unexpected. A hint of potential, maybe, for Nigma beyond a life of crime.
It's almost comical, right? Arkham's staff proposing that the Riddler design escape rooms for the public. Talk about fighting fire with fire.
It is. It's an unconventional idea, to say the least. But it speaks to this underlying question that keeps coming up. Can Nigma's brilliance be channeled towards something productive? Something that benefits society rather than disrupts it.
And his reaction is really fascinating. He doesn't just dismiss the idea. In fact, he seems like genuinely intrigued by the challenge of creating these intricate puzzles.
Yeah, there's that moment where Dr. Wilson's describing how people would pay to be trapped in his designs, to test their wits against his riddles, and you can almost see the wheels turning in Nigma's head.
It's like he's picturing it. A room full of people struggling to solve his puzzles, their frustration feeding his ego. It's a much different kind of power than what he gets from terrorizing Gotham.
But it's still power, right? And it taps into that same need for control. For intellectual dominance, that drives his criminal behavior.
It makes you wonder if this could actually be like a viable path for him, a way to satisfy his urges without resorting to crime. I'm remembering there was a period where Nigma was amnesiac, and he was actually working as a private detective using his puzzle-solving skills for good.
Right, and he was actually quite effective at it, but of course, that didn't last forever, His memories came back, and he eventually went back to his old ways.
Yeah, it's like he's trapped in this, riddle of his own making.
Yeah.
Unable to escape the pull of his darker impulses.
It's that classic struggle, isn't it? Nature versus nurture. Is Nigma inherently drawn to chaos, or is it a product of his experiences, his environment, the choices that he's made?
Well, one thing that's clear is that Dr. Wilson is unlike anyone he's encountered before.
Oh, yeah. She's a total wild card. Her background is a complete mystery, and her methods are, let's say, outside the box.
She drops these little hints about her past, like the fact that she wasn't born, but made.
Yeah.
And that she spent time in South America observing bad people.
Yeah.
Like in their natural habitat.
Oh, yeah. She even talks about frequenting Penguin's iceberg lounge, not to gamble, though, to study the pathology of bad decisions. It's like she's conducting her own research on the criminal mind, outside the confines of Arkham.
Definitely unorthodox.
Yeah.
And it raises some ethical questions about her approach.
Absolutely.
But there's no denying she has a very unique understanding of the criminal psyche.
Well, I mean, she did choose to work at Arkham, so she must have, a certain fascination with these kinds of individuals.
That's true. That's true. And perhaps it's that fascination, that willingness to see the world from a different perspective that allows her to, like, connect with Nigma on a level that others can't.
You know, it's like she's speaking his language both literally and figuratively, and in doing so, she might be opening up possibilities for him that he never even considered.
That's an interesting thought. But we have to be careful, right? Not to romanticize Dr. Wilson's method.
Oh, absolutely. We still don't know her full story or what her ultimate goals are. I mean, for all we know, she could be manipulating Nigma for her own purposes. Remember, she did mention her creator warned her about coming to Gotham.
That's right. There's still so much we just don't know about her.
Huh.
I'm still stuck on the "I wasn't born, I was made" comment.
I know, right? What does that even mean in this context? Was she created in a lab? Is she like some kind of android or a clone?
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And honestly, a little unsettling.
Well, regardless of her origins, there's no doubt that Dr. Wilson is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, she's intelligent, she's resourceful, and she's not afraid to challenge the status quo, even in a place like Arkham.
It's almost like she's conducting her own experiment, using Nigma as her subject.
It's like he's constantly searching for, like, an identity, a way to define himself, you know?
Right.
And perhaps that's why this therapy session is so intriguing. We're seeing him in a completely different light. He's stripped of his usual costumes and gadgets.
It's just a man and his riddles.
Right. Trying to make sense of his own twisted mind.
He does try to, like, justify his actions at one point, claiming he needs to, quote, keep himself entertained, end quote. It's like Gotham City is his personal playground, and its citizens are like merely pawns in his elaborate games. She's using a pretty unusual method in her therapy. She's using The Sims 4.
The Sims 4, the life simulator game.
The one and only.
So at first glance, that seems a little frivolous, doesn't it?
It does.
But when you think about it, I mean, considering the Riddler's personality, his obsession with puzzles and games.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
It's actually quite a brilliant strategy.
Right. It's like she's turning therapy into a game.
Yeah.
She asks him all these seemingly innocent questions like, you know, what kind of house would you build in The Sims?
Oh, that's clever.
And then she used those answers to actually build out a whole profile of him in the game.
It's a brilliant way to bypass his defenses, you know? Someone like the Riddler, always trying to outsmart everybody, he might just let his guard down if he thinks he's just playing a game.
She starts by asking about his ideal house.
Okay.
No surprise here, he goes for the most luxurious option. A sprawling mansion.
A mansion, huh?
Yeah, all the bells and whistles.
You know, on the surface, that might seem superficial, but it really does fit what we know about the Riddler, you know, from his past crimes.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. Those elaborate schemes of his, he's always had a taste for the finer things.
Yeah, he once pulled off this whole heist,
Yeah.
and it was just to steal a jeweled monocle.
A monocle.
A monocle.
Right, good is.
But it wasn't just about the money, you know. It was about the spectacle, the grand gesture.
Absolutely. That's what the Riddler is all about. And even his riddles, you know. They often involve these intricate puzzles centered around expensive artifacts or like high society events.
Right, right. Okay, so next Doc will ask him, where is home? And she gives him these three choices: where your things are, where your heart is, or where you're safe from danger.
Tough choices.
What do you think he picked?
Knowing the Riddler, I'm going to go with where his things are. I mean, his gadgets, his tools, those are essential to his sense of self.
Yeah, you're right on.
Ah.
He says he needs a good workspace
Uh-huh.
for all his tools and contraptions. Got to be surrounded by his instruments of, well, you know,
His craft.
his craft.
That tells us a lot, doesn't it? About his priorities, very practical, organized, and, you know, this deep connection to his work, which, let's face it. Yeah.
Often means criminal activity.
Right.
In his case.
Okay, then she throws a bit of a curveball, asks him about flowers.
Flowers.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's like, when are flowers the prettiest? Blooming in his garden in a beautiful arrangement, or dead in winter?
Wow. Okay, this is getting into some deeper territory now. This could give us some insight into his appreciation for beauty, or maybe even his potential for control.
Yeah, what do you think?
It's hard to say.
Well, he chooses blooming in his garden.
Yeah.
And he even talks about, you know, enjoying the process of caring for them, making sure they stay healthy and, you know, looking their best.
Do you think this could be a metaphor? Like, for his criminal activities? You know, carefully cultivating his plans until they, you know, blossom into this full-blown chaos.
Ooh, that's chilling.
It is, isn't it?
But, you know, it does make you think about that time he poisoned Gotham's water supply with that toxin.
Oh, yeah, right.
It was this plan that took months and months to maximize the fear and disruption.
Yeah, that slow burn, Very calculated. He wasn't just causing chaos, he was orchestrating it like a gardener tending to his, deadly flowers.
Throws in on to the next one. She asks him about his preferred outdoor activity. Fishing, gardening, or uncovering treasure.
Oh, come on.
What do you think? Is he trading in his question marks for a fishing rod?
No way. This is the Riddler. It's got to be uncovering treasure, right? The thrill of the chase, the mental challenge, that's his bread and butter.
Yeah, spot on.
Right.
He just can't resist a good challenge.
It's like even in a hypothetical situation, he's still drawn to that intellectual pursuit, the satisfaction of cracking the code.
Okay, now, this is where things take a bit of a personal turn. She asks about romance, but she seems, almost hesitant.
Hesitant, as if she's aware that these sessions might not be as private as they seem.
Exactly, like she's sensing that maybe Riddler knows these recordings are happening.
Ooh, that's a good point, yeah. The ethical implications there are pretty huge.
So she asks him about how he'd approach a romantic relationship. Ignore it and focus on myself. Go for the safe option, or try different things.
Okay, based on what we know, I'd say he'd say, ignore it, focus on myself.
Yeah.
We seem more into puzzles than people.
That's exactly what he says.
No way!
Yeah, claims he wouldn't rush into anything, self-focus is key. But then you remember his past relationships. Enigma, Query.
Yeah, Enigma. For our listeners who might not remember, she was a fellow criminal. Shared Riddler's love of puzzles.
Right, their relationship was
complicated, to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. Blend of intellectual stimulation and dangerous, codependency.
Exactly.
And Query, well, she was a former therapist, got a little too obsessed with the Riddler's, mind.
Right.
So is he really the avoid-all romance type? Could be a facade.
Yeah, or maybe a genuine fear of intimacy lurking beneath the surface. It's fascinating, isn't it? This contradiction. He craves attention, wants everyone to see how brilliant he is, but then he pushes away genuine connection.
Right. It's almost like he's afraid to let anyone see behind the mask, that carefully constructed persona.
Yeah, I see that.
Well, she pushes on, asks him, how would you court someone? Would he pretend to be hard to get, go with the safe option, or, try different things?
My money's on trying different things. He'd probably try to weave in riddles and puzzles, turn the whole courtship into a game.
You are good at this.
Yeah.
He specifically says he would make mazes and riddles. Got to keep things challenging, unpredictable, always be one step ahead.
Of course.
Even in matters of the heart, he needs that mental stimulation.
Yeah. But it also speaks to his need for control, doesn't it?
Correct.
He wants to set the challenges, hold the answers, always be in charge.
Right. Okay, now let's talk about control. The next question is about preparing his home for guests.
Okay.
So would he prioritize cleaning, arranging, food, or music?
This is a good one. This could tell us something about how social he is.
Yeah.
Or maybe his need to impress people or create a certain atmosphere.
He acknowledges that all of them are important, but ultimately he chooses music. It's all about setting the mood, creating the right ambiance.
The maestro of ambiance.
Why? That's
a very telling detail. It makes you think about how theatrical his crimes always are. Dramatic lighting, soundtracks, that sense of spectacle.
Yeah.
Music is part of his arsenal.
It's like he's always putting on a show, even in his personal life.
Exactly. And he's the director, the composer. He's calling all the shots.
So this is where we start to see a surprisingly practical side to him.
Practical? You mean?
Well, asks about his garden. What would he cultivate? Fruits and vegetables, flowers, or herbs?
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so at first he's like, all three.
Yeah.
But she makes him choose just one.
No.
And he goes with herbs.
Herbs. That's unexpected.
Right. But he specifically mentions their diverse applications in both cooking and medicine.
It's like resourceful.
Practical Riddler.
Right. It seems like even his more whimsical choices, have this layer of pragmatism. I see. It's like his riddles, right. They seem like these playful games, but underneath there's always a deeper meaning.
Right, exactly. He's not just picking herbs because they taste good.
Right.
He's picking them for their potential.
Or all their hidden properties, yeah.
Like he's always looking for an advantage.
That edge, yeah.
Okay, now, to a pretty important question.
Yeah.
How does he relate to other people? Would you meddle in their business, help them solve problems, or stay away?
Ooh, good question.
But then she's like, actually, you're more known for creating problems, aren't you?
Yeah, that's more accurate.
And he agrees, of course. He thrives on chaos, loves to cause trouble, but he says he still relates to people.
Relates to people? How so?
Through challenges, riddles, and games.
Games, huh?
He sees human interaction like a puzzle to solve, a game to be played.
Wow, that's insightful and unsettling at the same time. It's like he doesn't see people as individuals,
Yeah.
with their own feelings and thoughts. It's like they're all pieces on his chessboard.
And that's what makes him so dangerous.
Right.
Detached, manipulative, always thinking a few steps ahead.
So where does he see himself fitting into the whole criminal
Dr.
world?
Wilson.
I mean, is he the muscle, the brains? What's his role?
Oh, that's exactly what Dr. asks him. And he answers without a moment's hesitation. He's the brain, the puppet master, the architect of chaos.
Of course.
He loves being the one in control.
It's what we've always known, but hearing him say it so confidently,
Right.
it sends chills down my spine.
She reveals the Sims profile she's created based on his answers.
I'm dying to hear this.
The game labels him as a keeper.
A keeper.
Yeah. Someone who values and wants to possess all the good stuff the world has to offer.
Interesting.
And it highlights 3 key traits: lover of art, materialist, and against compromises.
That sounds about right. I mean, his crimes often target these priceless art pieces. He surrounds himself with luxury, and boy, does he ever hate to compromise.
And he thinks these assessments are spot on.
I bet he does.
Then comes the history that the game generated based on his answers. It says he's a thief with tinkering skills, a surprising ability to snowboard, and the capacity to live pretty frugally until he, achieves success.
Okay, the thief part, the tinkering, that all fits. But snowboarding, that's new, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It seems a little out of character.
But Dr. connects it back to his love of challenges, right? The need for adrenaline,
Oh.
like pushing the boundaries, even in his free time.
It's not about the physical act, then. It's about the mental game, mastering something new.
And as we'll see in the next recording, this little detail, it might be more important than we think.
Ooh, this is getting good.
Could be a clue to something much deeper.
Can't wait to hear what else these recordings reveal. The Riddler, master of deception. I'm sure he's got more surprises up his sleeve.
Oh, definitely.
It really is amazing how complex the Riddler is. He's got this meticulous planner side, but then also this need to take risks.
It's like he's got to keep pushing the boundaries.
It's funny how
Outdoing
invested
himself.
she's gotten in this whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a puzzle she just has to solve.
Makes sense. She is dealing with the Riddler after all.
Okay, so she starts describing his Sims appearance, average build,
Right.
brownish red hair,
Okay.
and those iconic round glasses with the green tint.
I can just picture it now. Like a little mini Riddler digital style.
So how does he react to seeing himself like this?
If I know him, he probably thinks it's hilarious. I mean, he's got to understand that a sim can't truly capture the whole, Edward Nygma experience.
You're right on. He's not bothered at all. He even jokes about wanting to see how good a likeness it is.
See? Always up for a game, even if he's the punchline.
Then she hits him with this. What else should I add to your virtual home? A pet?
Yeah.
Another person? Or maybe a hidden theme?
Oh, she's good. It's like a Rorschach test disguised as a game.
And he totally plays along. For a pet, he suggests either a riddle-loving parrot or a raven named Enigma.
Classic Riddler.
Right. For another person, he wants a partner-in-crime type character, specifically Nora Enigma.
Wait, hold on. Nora Enigma again.
Yep. Throws the name out there so casually, it's almost like a dare.
He's good. I'll give him that. Using the game as a smokescreen to drop this, potentially massive piece of information.
Right. It's like he's planting a seed, watching to see if it'll grow.
So what about his other suggestions? The parrot, the secret lair, they all point to this Nora maybe being part of his fantasy world too.
Right. He's blurring the lines, making it impossible to know what's real and what's just part of his,
Riddlerverse.
Exactly.
So what does Doctor make of all this?
Oh, she's definitely hooked, especially by the name Nora. She's surprised, even a little disbelieving.
I mean, who wouldn't be? This partner in crime that even Batman hasn't heard of.
And Riddler, being Riddler, plays it perfectly. He leans into the mystery, all innocent-like, saying there's a lot she doesn't know about him.
Oh, I bet.
He describes Nora as his right-hand woman.
Really?
Yeah, feisty and clever vixen, helps him with all his schemes.
He's actually giving her details about this, maybe imaginary accomplice.
He is. Talks about how smart she is, her cunning, how she can manipulate people.
My goodness.
Even brags about how they've kept it all secret from Batman.
Okay, if that's true, that's huge. Batman outfoxed by not one, but 2 criminal masterminds.
It's almost too good to be true, right? So is he telling the truth? Is Nora even real? Or is this just a big elaborate lie to throw everyone off?
It's impossible to say, but the fact that he's putting this information out there, like this, it shows how confident he is, how in control he feels.
Yeah, and as they keep talking, she seems to pick up on that, starts to push back a little.
Challenging him.
Yeah, questioning his motives.
What does he do?
Oh, he doesn't deny anything. He owns it. Straight up admits he's putting on a show, using the recording to manipulate people, push his own agenda.
Wow.
Right. He's talking to us, to everyone listening.
Turning therapy into a weapon, it's chilling.
But here's the thing. He also says he genuinely enjoys their conversations, likes talking to someone who listens and understands him.
He's looking for connection, maybe.
Or maybe that's just another move in his game. And just as we think we're starting to figure him out, the recording ends.
Oh, no, come on.
She suggests they have lunch in the library. Sounds like she's even more determined to, solve the Riddler riddle.
It's dangerous, isn't it? She's walking right into his world.
And as we'll see in the final recording, this lunch meeting, it changes everything. This last recording, it feels different. Like everything before was the calm before the storm.
Yeah, there's this tension. You can just feel it.
Her voice even sounds different. Not as, bubbly as before.
More serious, maybe.
Yeah, like she knows she's in over her head.
Like she's finally starting to see the Riddler for who he really is, but she can't help but be drawn in.
Yeah, but to what end right?
Yeah.
Okay, the recording picks up in the middle of their conversation. Sounds like they're arguing.
Arguing?
About what? About Nora, of course. She's throwing all these questions at him, trying to make sense of it all, but the pieces just don't fit.
Does he give her any straight answers?
He just keeps deflecting. Talks about how unreliable information can be within Arkham, and she shouldn't believe everything she hears, especially coming from, a criminal mastermind.
Oh, he's good. Making her doubt herself. Classic manipulation.
And then, this is the part that gets me, he says, it's all a show, a performance for an audience.
He's talking about the recording, isn't he?
It's like he's letting us know he's in control.
This whole time, he's known exactly what he's doing, knowing it would be recorded, that people would be listening.
Right. It's terrifying. But what's the point of it all? Why spread all this disinformation?
Maybe he's trying to throw off his rivals, create some chaos in the underworld.
Or maybe he's playing an even longer game, something we can't even imagine yet.
It's a pretty scary thought. I mean, I'd be speechless.
At first she is, but then she starts to push back, wants to know the truth.
She's not letting him control her anymore.
Yeah, she finally sees him for the manipulator he is.
But I wonder if she also sees something else, something more human underneath it all.
Maybe. She seems to want to believe there's more to him than just riddles and games.
So what happens? Does he open up?
He laughs, but it's not a, happy laugh. It's cold, like he's amused by her trying to figure him out.
Oh, that's creepy.
He tells her, truth is a slippery concept, a puzzle with no easy answers. Classic Riddler.
Always gotta be cryptic, huh?
And that's it. The recording just ends.
Oh, come on. I need to know what happens next.
We're left with more questions than answers.
So, what have we learned from all of this?
Well, I think it shows just how manipulative the Riddler can be. He's a master of turning any situation into a game.
Right. People are just pawns to him.
But we also see those glimpses of, vulnerability. A need for connection, maybe.
He's complicated, that's for sure.
This whole deep dive, it's left me thinking, if this is all just a game to him, what's the prize? What's he really after?
Maybe there isn't a prize. Maybe it's just about proving he's the smartest one in the room.
Or maybe it's a warning to Gotham, to Batman. Like he's saying, no one is safe from my games.
Whatever it is, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. The Riddler always a few steps ahead.
Always leaving us with more questions than answers.
That's it for our deep dive into the mind of the Riddler. Be careful out there, Gothamites. The game is never truly over.